Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. A person can be turned evil by a complex mix of psychological, social, biological, and environmental factors. While the idea of someone becoming evil is often framed in moral or religious terms, most experts, psychologists, criminologists, and philosophers consider it more nuanced. Here are some of the key drivers that can lead a person to harmful or malevolent behavior. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. 1. Childhood trauma and abuse. Neglect, physical/sexual abuse, or emotional deprivation in early life can damage a person's ability to empathize, regulate emotions, and form healthy relationships. Long-term trauma can lead to personality disorders, such as antisocial personality disorder. 2. Environment and social influence. Being raised in a violent, chaotic, or hate-filled environment can normalize harmful behavior. Peer pressure, groupthink, or ideological indoctrination, for example, cults or extremist groups, can warp moral judgment. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments and the Stanford Prison experiment showed how ordinary people can commit cruel acts under social pressure or institutional roles. 3. Mental illness or neurological damage. Some neurological conditions or injuries, especially to the frontal lobe, can impair impulse control or empathy. Certain disorders, like psychopathy, are associated with lack of guilt, empathy, and remorse, though not all people with such traits become dangerous. 4. Power and corruption. The phrase "power corrupts" reflects how some people, when given authority, begin to dehumanize others or justify unethical actions. Unchecked power can lead to narcissism, entitlement, and cruelty. 5. Revenge, hatred, or bitterness. Deep personal betrayal, humiliation, or a desire for revenge can consume a person, leading them to rationalize harm to others. Feelings of injustice or marginalization can fuel hatred and eventually violence. 6. Ideological extremism. Belief systems that dehumanize others or glorify violence can be powerful motivators. People may commit atrocities believing they are doing something good or necessary for a cause. 7. Lack of empathy or moral development. Some people never develop a robust moral compass or the ability to see others as fully human. If someone is socialized to view others as tools or threats, cruelty can become routine. 8. Addiction and desperation. Substance abuse can impair judgment and increase aggression. Poverty, desperation, and chronic stress can push people to act in ways they wouldn't otherwise. In summary, no one is born evil in the simplistic sense, though some may be born with traits that increase risk, like low empathy or high impulsivity. More often, it's a gradual erosion of moral boundaries, shaped by pain, ideology, power, or neglect, that leads someone down a dark path. If you're thinking about this in a specific context, like a story, a real person, or a philosophical question, I can go deeper in that direction. Here's a narrative-style exploration of how a person might slowly turn evil over time, with psychological realism and emotional nuance. Once, he was just a boy. Quiet, observant, and quick to smile, Nathan grew up in a small house with peeling paint and shouting walls. His father, when sober, was withdrawn. When drunk, he was a storm, fists and fury and unpredictable rage. His mother bore the blows in silence, shielding Nathan when she could. But fear became the rhythm of his days, and pain the language he understood best. By the age of 10, Nathan had stopped crying. At school, he was invisible. He never raised his hand. He never invited anyone over. When other children laughed, he felt a distant ache in his chest, something like hunger but colder. A teacher once asked if everything was okay at home. Nathan smiled. The kind of smile that children learn too early, the kind that says don't look too closely. He never got asked again. As he grew older, the anger inside him hardened. Not all abused children become abusers, but some, like Nathan, begin to believe that power is the only antidote to pain. He learned how to lie without flinching, how to get what he wanted through manipulation or force. At first, it was small things, stealing lunch money, intimidating classmates. But it thrilled him. The fear in others gave him a feeling of control he'd never had before. In his teens, Nathan found a group that welcomed his rage. They called themselves realists, young men with chipped shoulders and dark theories about how the world works. They blamed immigrants, women, politicians, anyone weaker or different. It wasn't about belief, not really. It was about belonging. Here, Nathan didn't have to hide his hate. He was praised for it, fed on it. By the time he was 25, Nathan was a different man. Cold, cunning, and efficient. He had risen through the ranks of a violent gang, known for his unflinching cruelty. He no longer thought of himself as broken or hurt. He thought of himself as awakened. Compassion was weakness. Empathy was a lie. He spoke of justice, but it was vengeance. He said he stood for something, but he stood on the backs of others. And yet, sometimes, in quiet moments, something would flicker inside him. A memory. A small boy hiding in a closet, hoping his father would forget he existed. A woman's voice singing off-key to soothe him. But the flicker never lasted. Nathan had built walls too thick, too high. He had learned long ago, if you want to survive, you bury the light. Her name was Elisa, and she used to believe in good. She volunteered at the animal shelter, helped tutor kids who struggled with math, and left sticky notes with kind words in public bathrooms just to make strangers smile. People described her as pure-hearted, the kind of person who cried at charity ads and forgave too easily. But none of that mattered after her brother died. He was only 19. A bystander in a gang-related shooting, wrong place, wrong time. Elisa collapsed when she got the call. The police told her there wasn't enough evidence. The suspect had priors, but nothing stuck. She went to the court dates, watched the smirking faces, the shrugged shoulders. Why do good people always lose? She withdrew from friends who told her to focus on healing. Healing felt like betrayal. She didn't want peace, she wanted justice. When justice didn't come, she began to crave something else, power. Elisa started tracking people. Not just the one who killed her brother, but others, dealers, abusers, traffickers, men whose names the law knew but did nothing about. She created burner accounts, gathered information, followed their routines. It felt like purpose. It felt like clarity. The first time she acted, it wasn't violent. Just a tip-off to a rival gang, a nudge. One man vanished. Then another. But her conscience began to shift. The more she did, the easier it got. She stopped seeing people, just targets. Sickness to be removed. Names on a list. Years later, Elisa sat in a candle-lit room, her face illuminated by laptop glow. On screen were files, videos, maps, her work. At first, he was just a boy like any other. Curious, quiet, sometimes shy. He liked to build things with blocks and laugh at cartoons. But the house he grew up in was not built with kindness. His father had a temper that thundered through the walls, and his mother cried quietly, too tired to fight anymore. Not all at once. But slowly. Quietly. Almost like he didn't notice until it was too late.